What if I told you that every single outfit Queen Elizabeth II wore was a calculated weapon? Not a dress, not a brooch, a weapon. For 70 years, the world watched her step out in carefully chosen colors, perfectly placed pearls, and strategically selected hats, but almost nobody understood what they were really seeing. This is the story of how one woman used fashion to control nations, send secret messages to world leaders, and build an image so powerful that it survived scandal, revolution, and the collapse of empires. In 2026, as the largest exhibition of her wardrobe opens to the public, hidden documents are emerging that reveal the shocking truth. Elizabeth Windsor wasn't just wearing clothes. She was waging psychological warfare, and she won. But the price she paid? That's the part they don't want you to know. June 13th, 1981, London. The Queen steps out wearing a vivid turquoise coat and matching hat to meet the public. The British press called it cheerful, but intelligence officers in Moscow saw something else entirely, a direct message. You see, turquoise was the color she wore when making statements about Commonwealth unity. 3 days earlier, Soviet diplomats had suggested fractures in Britain's colonial relationships. This wasn't fashion. This was a reply. Her wardrobe team, yes, she had a specialized team, maintained a color-coded system that rivaled military encryption. Bright yellow meant optimism during crisis. Emerald green signaled Irish diplomacy. All white ensembles appeared only when she needed to project absolute moral authority. But here's what nobody knew until recently. She had a rejection palette. Specific shades she would wear to meetings with leaders she was undermining behind closed doors. And if you want to know which world leaders received this silent treatment, hit that subscribe button, because we're about to expose something incredible, and I need you here when the truth drops. Help me prove every doubter wrong who said this channel would never reach 1 million subscribers. 1953. The coronation. The entire world tuned in to watch a 27-year-old woman become queen. But what they didn't see was the 8-month psychological operation that came before it. Newly uncovered documents from the Royal Archives reveal that Elizabeth's advisors were terrified. Post-war Britain was broke, losing colonies, and the monarchy's relevance was being questioned in Parliament. They needed the coronation to be more than a ceremony. It needed to be a global reassertion of British power. So they hired Norman Hartnell, Britain's top designer, but here's the twist. They also brought in a team of psychologists and propaganda experts. Together they engineered every detail of her coronation gown. The golden embroidery, symbols of the Dominions, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, stitched in to create subconscious loyalty. The silk, sourced from Kentish silkworms, a powerful nationalist message. Even the weight of the dress, 21 pounds, was calculated. It forced her to move slowly, deliberately, creating an aura of otherworldly dignity. This wasn't fashion. This was mass hypnosis. And it worked so well that even today, people tear up watching footage without understanding why. But Elizabeth had competition. Someone the palace has spent 70 years trying to make you forget. Princess Margaret. The Queen's younger sister was everything Elizabeth wasn't. Glamorous, rebellious, magnetic. In the 1950s, Margaret was outpolling the Queen in popularity contests. She wore Dior. She smoked cigarettes in public. She was photographed with movie stars. The public loved her, and the palace panicked. What happened next was a masterclass in image warfare. The Queen's team began a subtle campaign to reposition Margaret as tragic rather than exciting. They allowed, some say encouraged, press coverage of her doomed romance with group captain Peter Townsend. They framed her as the woman who sacrificed love for duty, while Elizabeth became the responsible, steady monarch. But here's the secret. Margaret wanted to be queen. Letters recently sold at auction reveal her resentment, her belief that she would have been better suited for the role. The palace needed Margaret neutralized, and they used fashion to do it. While Elizabeth wore structured, formal pieces that screamed authority, Margaret was encouraged into softer, more romantic styles that whispered fragile. The message was clear. One sister was a queen, the other was a cautionary tale. If you're still watching, You're exactly the kind of person I need in this community. Because what I'm about to reveal next has never been discussed publicly. And honestly, I'm not sure how long this video will stay up. Major media won't touch this story because it challenges decades of carefully constructed PR. But we're not major media. We're truth seekers. So here's the deal. Hit subscribe right now, turn on notifications, and let's build something together that proves every single person who said I couldn't reach 1 million subscribers absolutely, completely wrong. 1981. Lady Diana Spencer enters the royal family, and within months, she's on the cover of every magazine on earth. She's young, beautiful, and instinctively understands something the royals had forgotten. Fashion creates emotion. Diana wore outfits that made people feel sympathy, joy, hope. The famous revenge dress, that black Christina Stambolian gown she wore the night Charles admitted his affair, that wasn't spontaneous. That was strategic brilliance. But here's what the documentaries don't tell you. The Queen was watching, and she was learning. Internal memos show that Elizabeth's wardrobe team began studying Diana's approach, trying to reverse engineer her appeal. They failed, because Diana had something Elizabeth's carefully controlled image never could: vulnerability. The public saw Diana as real. They saw Elizabeth as a symbol, and symbols don't trend on magazine covers. So the palace tried something else. They began positioning the Queen as timeless versus Diana's trendy. Elizabeth's team flooded the press with stories about her iconic style, her legendary discipline. They turned her rigidity into a virtue, and slowly, painfully, it started to work. But the cost? The Queen's image became so controlled, so manufactured, that even her own grandchildren would later describe her as unknowable. Now, here's where it gets truly strange. Royal insiders have long whispered about the handbag code, a system of silent signals Elizabeth used to communicate with her staff during public events. Move the handbag from left arm to right. Time to end this conversation. Place it on the table. I'm comfortable. This can continue. But recently, a former royal protection officer revealed something darker. The handbag code extended to diplomatic events. Certain bag placements were prearranged signals to security about threat levels or her comfort with foreign dignitaries. One particular incident in the 1980s involved a state dinner with a Middle Eastern leader. The Queen placed her handbag on the floor, a signal never used before. Within minutes, MI6 agents quietly increased security presence. Later that night, intelligence intercepted communications suggesting a possible disruption had been planned. But think about what this means. For decades, every photograph, every public appearance, every candid moment, it was all theater. The bag wasn't an accessory, it was a communications device. And suddenly, every photo of the Queen takes on a sinister new dimension. What other signals were hiding in plain sight? Here's the psychological trick that made Elizabeth's image indestructible: repetition. For 70 years, she wore essentially the same silhouette. Modest hemlines, structured coats, sensible shoes, coordinated hats. Designers changed, fabrics evolved, but the formula remained identical. Why? Because repetition creates trust. Psychologists call it the mere exposure effect. The more we see something, the more we unconsciously prefer it. Elizabeth's team understood this instinctively. By never dramatically changing her look, she became a constant in a chaotic world. While hemlines rose and fell, while fashion revolutions came and went, the Queen stayed the same, and that consistency became her superpower. People didn't have to think about whether they trusted her. Her image made the decision for them. But the newly revealed exhibition documents show something unsettling. This wasn't organic. Internal palace memos from the 1960s describe Operation Permanence, a deliberate strategy to freeze the Queen's image at a specific point and maintain it indefinitely. They studied successful brand logos, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and applied the same psychological principles to a human being. She wasn't a person anymore. She was a product. And the product was selling British soft power to a world that no longer feared British hard power. Before I reveal the final, most disturbing piece of this story, I need your help. If this video gets demonetized or suppressed, the only way we continue making content like this is through your support. Subscribe, share this video, leave a comment telling me what shocked you most, Because every person who said I couldn't build a channel that reaches 1 million subscribers, they're watching right now, waiting for me to fail. Don't let them win. Let's prove that independent research and truth-telling still matter. 2026. The Centenary Exhibition opens. Room after room of gowns, coats, hats, jewels, a lifetime of image making on display. But here's what you won't see: the loneliness. Former staff members are finally speaking, and their accounts paint a heartbreaking picture. Elizabeth wasn't choosing these outfits. By the 1970s, she had stopped expressing personal preference almost entirely. Her wardrobe team presented options based on diplomatic schedules, color psychology reports, and polling data. She became a mannequin for the state. One lady-in-waiting recalled Elizabeth staring at a rack of gowns and quietly saying, "Does it even matter which one?" The woman who wore fashion as a weapon had become its prisoner. And perhaps that's the real untold story. In trying to create an indestructible image, Elizabeth Windsor disappeared behind it. The crown needed an icon, so the person ceased to exist. The 2026 exhibition will celebrate her fashion legacy. But nobody will talk about the cost of that legacy. The human being who spent 70 years performing an image so convincing that even she forgot where the performance ended and the person began. That's the price of being an icon. Total erasure. So the next time you see those perfectly curated photos, those impossibly coordinated outfits, remember, you're not looking at a person. You're looking at the most successful propaganda campaign of the 20th century. And it's still working, even now, even on you. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and let's keep uncovering the truth together.